What if you've been in a narcissistic relationship for years but genuinely had no idea? You not because you were naive, not because you were not paying attention, but because it never looked the way you thought abuse was supposed to look. Do you understand? There was no screaming every day, there was no black eyes, and from the outside everything felt okay, it felt normal. But from the inside, you're feeling exhausted, you're already exhausted. Do you understand? You're asking yourself, what have you done wrong, or what are you not doing right in the relationship? You're always second guessing yourself. You felt like no matter what you tried to do or no matter what you did, it never felt right. You spent so much time trying to figure out what was the wrong thing you did. What was the wrong thing you did, but you never stopped for one day asking yourself what was actually wrong with him. Because every day you're always thinking that maybe you're the problem. You're always asking yourself what is wrong with you. But you never for one day asked if something was actually wrong with the man. I want to talk about this today. Not the ones you find in your psychology textbooks, but the normal ones, the ones that feel surprisingly normal. Until someone points them out to you and then suddenly everything clicks. And I need you to stay until the end, because the last sign is the one that most women completely miss. You understand? And honestly, it is the most important one. So the first sign is something that happened right at the beginning, even before anything went wrong. It felt like a fairy tale. It moved so fast. He was calling you all the time, telling you things like he had never felt this way for anyone before, telling you that you are the most special woman in the world, telling you about the future already, like he has already decided it. And it felt so good, of course, it did. Who wouldn't love feeling that way? But think back. Did it ever feel like almost too much, too soon? Like the intensity was a bit, overwhelming, even though it felt good. Like you barely know this man, but here he is already acting like you are already in his entire world. That is called love bombing, and it's almost how this kind of relationship starts. It's not a genuine love. It's a way of getting you emotionally attached before you find out who he really is. Just and because once you are already attached and you start imagining the future, you will spend the rest of the relationship trying to get back to how it started first weeks. Do you understand? And that is exactly what he's counting on. The second sign is that every argument ended up with you apologizing. I want you to think about this one. Even when he did something wrong, even when he lied to you, even when he let you down in a way that is as clear as the day, how did that conversation end? Somehow you ended up defending yourself, explaining your feeling, apologizing for being too sensitive or for being too emotional or for bringing it up in a wrong way. And by the end of the argument, you had completely forgotten what you were even upset about in the first place. This is one of the things narcissists do more than almost anything else. They flip the script. You come to them with something real, something valid, and within minutes, you are the wrong one. You are the one in the wrong. You start wondering, maybe you overreacted, or maybe you were reading too much into it, or maybe you were being too sensitive. You were not too sensitive. Your feelings were valid. He was just very skilled at making you feel like they weren't, so that he never had to take any responsibility for anything. The third sign is that you started to genuinely doubt your own memory. He would say something that would really hurt you and then completely deny he ever said it. He would do something and then he would act like you were just being dramatic or you were the one making the whole thing up. He would try to bring up a conversation you both had and he would look at you like you are losing your mind. And the scary part of it is that after a while, you started to believe him. You stopped bringing things up because you weren't sure anymore if your own version of events was accurate. You started keeping things to yourself. because the alternative was being made to feel crazy. You started to think that maybe you were really too emotional, too paranoid, or too much. Here is what I need you to know. Your memory was not broken. Your instincts were never wrong. They were not wrong. What was happening is that someone is deliberately making you to question your own reality so that you would stop trusting yourself and start depending on their own version of the truth instead. That is one of the most disorienting things another person can do to you. And for the fact that you survive it says a lot about how strong you actually are. The fourth sign is that you never know the version of him you'll get on any given day. Do you understand? Some days he's wonderful, he's warm, he's funny, he's loving. You know, he felt like that person you fell for the initial time. You know, and on other days he's so cold, he's so mean, he feels so distant and irritable. And you had no idea why these things happen, why this shift happens. And then instead of you to focus on yourself, instead of you to focus on your well-being, you start trying to do things that will make him happy. You start trying to say things that would, make him happy because you don't know what you did that caused that shift. So you spend so much time trying to please him, trying to make him happy, trying to bring him back to that man you first met earlier. And then when he was good again, you felt so relieved that you forgot how bad the bad days were. That cycle of tension and relief, that constant unpredictability is one of the things that keep women stay longer in this kind of relationships. Keeps them stuck longer than they should be, longer than expected. It's exhausting. It keeps your nervous system on high alert all the time, and it keeps your focus entirely on him and on managing his mood rather than on yourself and what you actually need. And the fifth sign, this is one I want you to really sit with. You stopped recognizing yourself. Not all at once, but it happened slowly, so slowly that you didn't even notice. You stopped talking about certain dreams because they didn't seem to interest him. You stopped seeing some of your friends because it was easier than dealing with his reactions. You stopped dressing in a kind of way, you stopped dressing differently, you stopped speaking differently, you start shrinking yourself in ways that you didn't even realize you were doing. You became whoever the relationship needed you to be, just to keep the peace. And when it finally ended, you looked up and then you realized that you had no idea who you were anymore outside the relationship. That did not happen because you were weak. It happened because you were in survival mode for so long that becoming smaller felt like the only way to stay safe. You didn't lose yourself, you hid yourself to survive. And she's still in there. Getting her back is the whole point of your healing journey. If you watched this and then you found yourself nodding along, I want you to take a second and just breathe. Because recognizing what happened to you is not a small thing. A lot of women spend years, sometimes even decades, wondering what was wrong with them. And the answer was never that something was wrong with them. The answer was that there was someone who needed them to believe that, so they would never look too closely at them. You're not crazy, you're not sensitive, and you're not dramatic. You were in a relationship that was just designed to make you feel all of those things. And now you know better. And knowing is where your healing starts. Tell me in the comments which signs hit home for you the most. I read every comment and I would want to hear from you. And if you had a girlfriend who is still in a relationship that feels off, but she can't explain why, just send this to her. Send it to her. It might be exactly what she needed to say. Like this video and I will see you in the next one. You're not alone in this, and you're going to be absolutely okay.